Okay, great. Thanks very much everyone for joining us today. To everyone who's joining us live on the session and to everyone who's watching the recording at a later stage. This session is titled Assessment on Canvas, and we're going to do an in-depth kind of dive into what to think about when you're completing your assessments on Canvas. My name is Mary Murphy. I'm an e-learning technical officer with the Department of Technology Enhanced Learning, and we manage the Canvas platform. And I'm joined by Dr. Jeremiah Spillane, my colleague, who will be doing a demonstration on submitting your assignments on Canvas and lots of different considerations. So just to give you, just to say, I suppose, there's probably a lot of new students watching this session today, so just to welcome you all and hope you're settling in well to MTU. And as a new student, there's a lot to kind of take in, with lots of different technology to get used to and that. I know, because I was a new student myself a few years ago, so I know what that's like. But just to kind of reassure you that there's plenty of support available, and I think this session will be really useful, and we'll also be sending on a recording after the session as well, so you'll be able to kind of have that there as a support as well, and we'll be talking about other supports that we can point you to as well. So just to do talk about the session outline for today, I'm going to talk about the different types of assessment in Canvas. Jeremiah is going to do a demonstration on various different aspects of submitting your assignment in Canvas, looking at rubrics, how to see your grades and feedback, and many different considerations there. We'll then talk about academic integrity, and we'll talk about some of the common issues that might come up when you're submitting assignments, and how to kind of handle those when they happen. And we have the some time for a Q&A then as well. So on your menu, you should be able to see the Q&A button there. So if you do have any questions during the session, if you pop them in the Q&A, and then we'll get to them at the end of the session. So I'll start off by talking about the different types of assessments on Canvas. We have file upload, we have text entry, video entry, we've got quizzes, we've got time constrained exams, we've graded discussions and group assessments. So there's lots of different options there. I mean, really, it's your lecturer will decide what way they want to assess you. A lot of assessments would be under the file upload option, with other options are also used. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of those first, and then Jeremiah will do a demonstration on Canvas itself. So just to kind of start at the start, where to find your assignments on your module, you would go to your module menu here over on the left hand side and click on the assignments area, and you can see here that there's an assignment set up which is due on the 7th of October, and you can see that the due date is Tuesday and it has to be submitted by 23:59. There is 100 points being given for the assessment. Now the assessment could be weighted there. It might be worth 20% of your overall module grade. So you know, again, your lecturer will advise you on all those different aspects. There'll be a little brief instruction here by the lecturer, and they might add an assignment brief there as well to give you more information there. So again, Jeremiah will talk more about the assignment brief side of it. So if you were submitting your assignment, say, you would just go start assignment, and then in the next screen here, you'll see this option here where you can choose to upload your file. So you just click and upload your file from your computer, and you can then add any comments. So if there's anything you wanted to let the lecturer know, this is the area where you can do it, especially, say, for example, if you were submitting your assignment late, or if there was other considerations there that you wanted to let the lecturer know, you can add comments there, and then you just submit your assignment. So that's the file upload option. The next option then is a text entry, and again, you can see along the top here it shows that this is a text entry box. So when you go to the start assignment option, you literally put your the text of your assignment directly into the And once you're happy with it and it's completed, you can just submit then as normal as well. Then the next one is if you were asked to upload a media recording. So sometimes you could be asked to do a 5 minute presentation on, say, maybe a project you're working on, or it could be for any different reasons. But I've just given an example there of a 5 minute presentation introducing your project. Again, go to the same area on Canvas, but you'll see here that this option then is a media recording. So again, you just upload your recording here and submit as normal there. Then there's the quiz option, which your lecturer might decide that they want you to complete a quiz as part of your module grade. Again, you will see when Jeremiah does the demonstration where to access quizzes, and generally they could be a time limit on those, and there you will see your time allowed and the running time that's left there kind of on that. And then down here on the bottom you would submit the quiz. Then they can sometimes be graded discussions where, for example, your lecturer wants you to discuss with your peers a specific discussion point. I just gave there the example of discuss what you consider the major developments in the history of Munster Technological University. Or it could be, say, if there was a guest lecturer came in, or it could be for anything that really the lecturer decides they want you to discuss, to provide your own, I suppose, discussion points, and maybe to interact with your peers as well. And then say that's what that would look like there. So you can see on the outside here it's got discussions, and you would just reply there to add your discussion point. Also, you could be asked to do a time constrained exam, so you might get 3 hours to complete an exam, and you could access that on Canvas as well. You would go into the assignments area as normal, and beforehand you would be given clear instructions by your lecturer on exactly what the timings are, what you need to do in advance, and once the start time begins, the exam then is open. It would be locked before that, but once the time is it gets to that time, the exam opens, and then you'll see the exam questions, and you might have, say, 3 hours to complete the exam. And once the finish time is reached, then the assignment will close automatically. So as soon as that time limit is up, the assignment will close then automatically. Also, you could be asked to take part in a group assessment where you might be working with two or three or four other people from your class. So you could be assigned a group by your lecturer, and your lecturer might ask the group to upload an assignment on Canvas, and this would be done in the same way as an individual assignment, except that the grade, the lecturer would provide a grade to all group members of that particular group. So now we're going to go to Jeremiah, and he's going to do some of the demonstration on uploading your assignments, checking instructions. He'll explain what a rubric is. He'll look at taking a quiz, and generally looking at your where to see your grades and feedback and stuff like that. So I'm going to stop sharing there, Jeremiah, and I'll hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Marion. You should be able to see my Canvas screen as a correct. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So hi, everybody. So just following on from what Marion was talking about there, all the different kind of assessment types. In practical terms, then when you jump into Canvas, your course will look something like this. On the left-hand side there, in the black text, the vertical column there, that's the global navigation. But once you're in your course, you have this blue text on a white background. That's the course navigation. And it's up to the lecturer to decide how that will look. They can that's modular, and they can change that themselves, but it should look something like this. And in this instance here, we've got a grades tab, we've got an assignments tab, and we've got the units. It could be possible that your lecturer will not have an assignments tab here, and instead, when you click into the units, the different parts of your course, you'll actually find the assignments embedded in here. So for example, if I go to week 1 and I scroll down, I can see there's assignment 1 here, and there's a little icon of an assignment there, and there's a quiz with a rocket. So it could be the case that your lecturer has set things up where you just find the assignments in the course. But typically you will have an assignments tab here, as well as a grades tab. So Marion outlined a number of different types of assessment. But typically in Canvas, these will be presented to you in one or two formats, really. A quiz type assessment. So as Marion mentioned, a kind of a time constrained exam in a class. If they were using Canvas for this, they would probably do it via a quiz, maybe a closed book quiz or something where you're answering questions on the computer in the classroom. Or an assignment, which will be an upload of some sort. So it could be a text entry submission, it could be a file submission, it could be a media submission, and so on. So just to show you what a few of those look like, I want to jump into, let's see here, do I have a file at hand? Okay, so I'm going to jump into this first assignment here. You can see it's got some basic information here, a basic brief. It gives you a due date. So it's really, really important that you pay particular attention to this information here, because it'll, it's easy to miss something here and then submit something incorrectly or submit something late or so on. So it's really important to pay attention to this information. So you've got a deadline, you've got the amount of points that are allowed. And in most cases, we encourage lecturers to allow more submission attempts, just in case there are any issues, or we typically advise people to allow late submissions as well. And then it's up to your lecturer to decide how that's dealt with. Sometimes they'll have the brief here, or other times they'll have it linked. So that's what's happening here. There's a link, which isn't found, but there's a link to that. And when you're ready to, once you've read the brief and you're ready to submit your assignment, you would submit that here. You can see that there's a number of different options. You can upload a file, you can drop it there. There's a text entry option where you can use the WYSIWYG editor, the what you see is what you get editor. It's like free text, so you can just type your response in there. Or there might be a media file type entry. So in this instance, it's set up with Studio, which is just a tool where you can create videos. But you can also just upload a video file if that's what's requested by your lecturer. One thing to note here at the bottom is this little tick box. So in this instance, this assignment has been set up with a tool called Turnitin, which means that you have to tick this to ensure, to agree and acknowledge that the work provided is your own original work. It's basically a plagiarism detection tool. We're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end, but that's what that will look like. So when you submit an assignment, I don't actually have a file on this desktop. When you drop it here, it'll give you, and you submit it, it'll give you like some confetti that'll drop down, and you'll know that your assignment has been submitted. But once it's submitted, it'll go to your lecturer to grade, and I'll show you what that will look like when you get it back. So I'm going to go into this second assignment, just as another example. And this is a kind of a standard type assignment that you'll get. You'll get a brief with some guidance telling you what you need to do. There might be some information about learning outcomes. They'll give you information like a word count. And again, this is important because your lecturer will typically have rules about exceeding that word count. There might be kind of a penalty for exceeding that word count. And there'll be information about the format, what type of font should be used, if there's a reference style. So typically there are a number of different referencing styles. These are basically writing style guides that help you indicate where you've used other sources by using citations, typically the name of the author and the year and so on. So Harvard is a common one, APA is another common one here at MTU. But there are a number of different ones, and your lecturer will tell you which one you should use. And so typically it'll be outlined in this kind of brief. So again, just as a tip, it's really important to read these briefs really, really well to make sure that you're submitting in line with what your lecturer has asked. In some instances, not in all instances, a lecturer will use a rubric. And for those of you who are not familiar with what a rubric is, it's basically a table like this one, which is quite transparent in how the assessment is being graded. So here in this first column, you can see there are a number of different criteria. So structure and clarity, understanding the topic, some critical analysis, and referencing and style. And you can see over in the very last column that these are allocated an amount of points. And in this instance, that'll comes up to a maximum of 100 points. And it's really important to pay close attention to these, because this tells you what your lecturer is going to be grading your assignment based on, these 4 criteria. But it's also worth noting the points, because in this instance, 2 of these criteria are weighted more heavily. So you get 30 points for these 2, whereas you get 20 for those. So when you're doing your assignment, you know you need to pay extra attention to the understanding and the critical analysis in this case. And then these columns in the middle tell you information about, what the lecturer would consider excellent, fair, good, or poor. And this is a very useful tool, because it tells you, the student, exactly what you're being assessed on. But also, if the lecturer is grading this and there is a secondary examiner or an external examiner, they are following the same rubric, so that their grading is much more consistent. Again, not everyone will use these, or sometimes they might use a rubric, but they don't have it formatted in this way. It might be just embedded, or might be a link perhaps in the brief. But so you might find them in different ways. Some people won't use them, some people will. They'll use them like this, and others will just embed them as a kind of an Excel sheet or something. But what's useful with this is, when they do use the rubric, they can use that as a grading tool. And over here, you can see that I'm already after submitting this assignment. So I've uploaded, as I showed you in that last assignment example, there was a box to drop in a file. So I dropped in a Word document. That has been submitted. And I can see submission details here. So if I click on that, submission details, you can see I've got my assignment there. So over here, I can see that I've got a grade. The grade has been released. So typically, your lecturer will grade all of the assignments for everyone in your class before they release the grade. So if it's an essay type or a report or something like this, don't expect to get your results exactly when submission deadline happens. They'll go through all the grading process, and then when they're ready to release all of them, they'll release them all at the same time typically. So in this instance, the grade has been released, and I can view the rubric evaluation. So if I click on this, you can see here that the lecturer, in this case, is just me grading my own assignment. I've used the rubric. So this is a useful shorthand for them to kind of respond to your work using this kind of table, this guideline. So you can see here, the first one has been excellent, the second one is good, second one is good, and the last one is fair. So that's kind of helpful to see, how they've graded those. And then that's auto-tabulated those to give me 70 marks. So that's quite helpful, I think. So in addition to that, then, you can receive feedback in a number of different ways. So here there's just a short note saying it's well written, that the referencing needs to be improved to ensure that you don't inadvertently fall foul of plagiarism. So just a note on this as well, when you get feedback from your lecturers, it's quite likely that they've got a lot of students and they're marking across different modules. So sometimes the feedback can come across as short or curt maybe. But it's really, really important, I think, just kind of a personal tip, that you never take any negative feedback or critical feedback personally. It should be intended as kind of constructive criticism to help you improve your work. So anything that is given to you in feedback, treat it as constructive criticism and work to improve that in the future. But you can see also they can deliver feedback as media content. So here you can see that I've just recorded a quick video. This is a really good essay. There's a really good opening. And so they can give you video feedback in that way. So again, this is really up to the lecturer. Also, you can see that here's the file that I uploaded, and I can click view feedback, and I can see the feedback that my lecturer has given me. So the lecturers are able to annotate your assignments. So in this instance, a little bit bigger. You can see that, they can put in some text comments to say that, good opening and so on. Sorry, it's going to get that out of the way. Over here, you can see they've added little balloons to give you some feedback. And they can also highlight sections and give you feedback based on that as well. So really, really important when you do submit an assignment and you get your grade, don't just take the grade and move on. Do look at the feedback they've given you and kind of build on that kind of moving forward. So that's the assignment type that you will be kind of typically getting, the submission type. The other one is going to be a quiz type. So let's have a look at one of those, for example. So when you get a quiz, they'll give you information, in this instance, it's an MCQ quiz. There's 1 mark for each assignment, and there's a time limit. Again, really, really important to make note of things like the time limits and the due dates. So once you've done all that, you can begin the quiz. It takes a few seconds to load. Again, you have that information there. Again, always important to read that. And in this example, you can see that we've got 2 different types of questions. The first one is multiple choice, and the second is an essay type question. So there are a number of different question types that they could choose. I've just chosen these 2 for a quick example. Some of them will be automatically calculated. So the MCQ, the multiple choice question, for example, when I respond to that, the learning management system, Canvas, can automatically calculate those, in which case you'll get a grade back straight away. In the case of an essay type question, where it's like free text and you can just type in, obviously, Canvas isn't going to be able to grade that accurately, and that needs manual grading from your lecturer. So in that instance, you'd have to wait for grading for the essay type question. So I've answered these 2 questions. I'm going to submit it. And you can see that the first question has been auto-graded, and I've got 50% of my mark because it was an MCQ. But the second one here we see, because it was a free text one, and the bottom it says waiting for grade. So it's just worth remembering that if you do something with a free text response, it needs to be manually graded by your lecturer. So these are really the 2 main kind of assignment types that you're going to get. That you're going to encounter. As Mari mentioned earlier, there might be other ways that your lecturers decide to assess you, continuous assessment and so on. Maybe that's through discussion forums. But typically you're going to have assignment submissions and you're going to have quizzes. The other tab that you'll notice here is the grades tab. So again, when I click in here, you can see that there are a number of different assignments. As long as it's been published by your lecturer, they'll show up here in the grade section. So you can see that assignment that I looked at a while ago where I saw the feedback. I can click on that and it'll bring me to the assignment, but I can see that, when I submitted it, and I can see that the grade I've gotten for that. Other assignments that I haven't submitted or the lecturer hasn't posted the grade will be identified by this eye with the line through it. So if I hover over that, it tells me that the instructor has not posted the grade, and the MCQs, similarly, they've not posted the grade. So in the case of that first quiz, it's been half automatically graded, but the other manual part hasn't happened, so they haven't released that. So this is a useful section for you to see just the different information about your grades and so on. One last thing that I might signpost you to is this Canvas Learn course. So if you go to your dashboard in Canvas on the global navigation here, you should see in your published modules this Canvas Learn course. It's a Canvas Learn course for students. In here, you should see something like this. And that'll give you gives you a kind of little overview of what's in the course. There's a getting started section, a Zoom section, the Canvas app, and so on. But here you can see section 5 and section 6 and section 7 all apply to what we're talking about today. So everything that Marion and I are discussing is kind of available here in a kind of Canvas course format that you can go through, and they show you the different types of assignments and so on, and the kind of submission process that we've discussed today. So I think that's really it for the live demo. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A or the chat. And Marion, I'll pass back to you there to start sharing the slides.
Brilliant. Thanks for that demonstration. It's great, Jeremiah. So I'll just go back to the slides again. And can you see the academic integrity slide there?
Yeah, will I just talk about the plagiarism first there? Yeah.
Please.
So yeah, Marion's going to talk about Turnitin, but just before that, just to give some context, this relates to the idea of academic plagiarism. I think many of you will understand what that is, but for those of you who don't, plagiarism is essentially presenting other people's ideas or work as your own without proper acknowledgement. Excuse me. And this is really a big no-no in higher education. It's kind of unacceptable, and it's treated quite seriously. So, but it's not something that has to be a problem or a worry for you. Sometimes people can inadvertently plagiarize, and that's when they present other people's ideas as their own unintentionally. And to avoid that, all you need to do is ensure that you reference and cite the people whose work you're drawing on and the ideas that you're drawing on. So if it's someone else's ideas, you would say, Marion Murphy in her article about this says this, and then you can respond to it. And you can talk about their ideas in that way, which is absolutely fine because you've explained who's presented those ideas. Similarly, if you need to use someone else's words, there are conventions for that. And this differs from subject to subject. There are different conventions, and your lecturer will tell you about this. I'm just kind of speaking about it very generally. But if you have to present someone else's ideas, like through a quotation, there are conventions for that. For example, that you would use inverted commas around them, and that you would use a footnote, which is where you put the name of the article or the website or whatever it is that you've drawn that information from, and the author's name, so that you're clearly attributing the words of someone else to where you found them. So yeah, just on that, it's really, really important that you reference and acknowledge properly where you've drawn work from other people. And again, your lecturer will tell you about this. If you have any questions about that, do ask your lecturer. It's just a very important thing to know about. Yeah, and with that, I think I'll pass back to you there, Marion.
Great, thanks, Jeremiah. So yeah, I just wanted to mention the tool that MTU use as their anti-plagiarism tool, and it's called Turnitin. And so some lecturers will set up Turnitin on your actual assignment. So if you see this box at the end of when you're about to submit your assignment, it's just basically saying that you agree that the submission is your own original work. So it's just really your commitment that your work is your own original work. So I suppose what the Turnitin tool does is it assesses your submission for similarity to other published work. But as Jeremiah said, it's important to also always when you're talking about someone else's work to include a citation. That could be, for example, Ryan 2020. Again, you're also always refer to your lecturer in relation to how they want you to reference external sources and follow their guidelines there. Generally, you would need to include a citation within the body of the work and then include a full reference at the end in your reference list. But again, if you're a new student, this would all be explained to you by your lecturer. So I wouldn't worry about it, but just to, if you were told about it and you're like, at least you have some idea what it actually means. So I just wanted to mention that as well. So just then thinking about some of best practices really. So I suppose the main one really is to follow the lecturer's instructions. And we pointed out that generally you would receive an assignment brief by your lecturer, which is really kind of your guidelines for the assignment, and take the time to go through that in detail and really kind of I suppose highlight the areas that the lecturer is going to be focused on for the assignment. And it'll give you lots of clues on how to approach the assignment as well. So that document is put together for a reason, and it's really important to kind of take on board everything that the lecturer has asked you to do. And also, if the lecturer sets up a rubric, again, that can be really useful. Now, not all lecturers will use a rubric, but some will. And again, it's good for you to know what a rubric actually is if your lecturer decides to use one on a future assignment. So follow the rubric, and again, take note, as Jeremiah said, around the different kind of the marking used on the rubric as well. So look at what areas are where there's higher marks going for certain aspects. So just kind of use it as a guide for completing your assignment. Obviously submit your assignment on time, very important. If there's any reason why you cannot submit your assignment on time, you will have to go back to your lecturer on that again. And they will discuss that with you. If you have a due date, always make time for difficulty with network issues. Don't leave it till 1 minute before the deadline to submit your work, because that'll invariably be the time that a network issue occurs, and it will could affect your submission getting in on time. If you're doing an online quiz, just be kind of mindful that you might have a time limit on that, and keep an eye on that as you're working through the quiz. double check the file format and uploads. Again, I suppose that's really going back to the assignment brief and following your lecture instructions, and also back up your work. That sounds like a very simple point, but be situations where something happens where something mightn't be saved automatically, so just make sure it is before coming out of anything. So just some kind of, I suppose, quick tips there that will help you when you're completing your assignments. So then just a couple of things, some common issues and troubleshooting them. So what to do if your assignment fails to upload or your quiz freezes. So on Canvas, Jeremiah showed you the dark menu here is like the overall Canvas menu. So it's called the global navigation menu, and down here we have the help section, and you can actually go live to a live web chat with Canvas support there. MTU has an agreement with Canvas for 24/7 support, so that's great to have that in place. So if you have any issues like that, at least you know you can contact Canvas support. Also contact your lecturer if you missed a deadline, and always provide documentary evidence as well for your lecturer to demonstrate the reason why you were unable to submit on time. We also have Canvas student guides. We have a list of links that we're going to share with you there at the end of the session, and we'll also send those to you in an email afterwards with a recording of this session. So we've got student guides, and there's a specific section on assignments there. Also we've the IT help desk. So if you have any issue in relation to logging in or something that's outside of Canvas, you can go to the IT help desk and submit a ticket, and that's kind of what that looks like. Again, we'll share a link to IT support there, so you log a ticket here, provide as much information as you can there. And again, also your lecturer is of course a very important support to you as well. So always contact them if you have any issues with submitting on time, etc. So as I mentioned, there's a number of links that we're going to actually share with you there. I think you might be able to share them in the chat there, Jeremiah, will you? And we can
Yeah.
we can also send them on after the session when we send the recording as well.
Can I just show something really quickly there just before,
Yeah.
because I didn't do it earlier on?
Will I stop sharing there, or you want to share?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just shared this link in the chat, but you know, especially when you're doing your first assignment, you don't want those extra nerves of kind of getting the assignment done and doing it right at the deadline. So we have this Canvas assessment guide for students. In the assignment section, there's a practice assignment mobile upload. So the space allows you to practice making a submission, not linked to any course. You can just test it to see that your internet connection works well and that you're able to upload the file types that you're trying to do. So if I start assignment here, we see that file upload window that we talked about earlier on. If I click on this, I can just grab a file from my desktop, and I should be able to submit that assignment. So I can see that it's uploaded there. And if I click submit, I get some confetti that tells me that the assignment has been successfully uploaded. So it's just to make you aware that you've got that test option there as well, which is very, very useful. Yeah, I'll stop sharing there again, Marion, if you want to put back up the slides with the web link.
So I think we've covered that. We'll share there is an option as also to put your submission through the Turnitin plagiarism detection tool. So again, I think we've shared all those anyway, so and we'll share them afterwards. That's our email address. But I suppose in relation to difficulties with submission, or if your submission fails to upload, Canvas would be your first port of call there. So that's it from us. Just check if there's any questions there.